Hello everyone, myself Nidhi Pandya. Today is my topic of paper number 108. The American literature is civil obedience across the time, the legacy of the Thoreau in the Great Thunberg's climate activism and the Black Lives Matter movement. These are my academic details and presentation details. These are table of contents. Here is my research question. How does the Henry David Thoreau's civil obedience continue to shape the moral frameworks, strategies, and practices of the contemporary nonviolent movements such as the Black Lives Matter and the Fridays for the Future? My hypothesis is that Henry David Thoreau's civil obedience provides a continuing intellectual and the moral foundation for the contemporary nonviolent movements, as evidenced by the persistence of the convention-driven resistance, nonviolent tactics, and the demands for the systematic transformation in Black Lives Matter and the Fridays for Future, despite their adaptation to digital, intersectional, and the transactional contexts. Introduction. Civil obedience remain one of the democracy's most effective non-violent tools. From the Thoreau's solidarity stand against the slavery and the war to today's global youth movements, the same moral logic persists across the time. Here it is shown that the Black Lives Matter and the Great Thunberg's activism breathe fresh life into the Thoreau's principle, while the confronting the 21st century racial and the climate injustice. Defining the civil disobedience. Civil disobedience is a principled resistance that appeals to the shared higher values rather than a mere law breaking. Here, Thoreau, King, and the Sherman all insist it must demonstrate fidelity to the law even while challenging the specific unjust statutes. Now, this definition anchors our entire comparison of the historical and the contemporary activism. Here, it is shown. Thoreau's radical foundation. Here, Thoreau rejected the blind obedience and the demanded citizens to act according to the conscience. His tax resistance against the slavery the today's activists in the Black Lives Matter and the Fridays for Future inherit this uncompromising stance for moral duty and outweighs legal compliance when the government perpetuate the harm. The anti-legal turn in this civil disobedience theory. Here, Scotsman documents a troubling shift away from the viewing civil obedience as a fidelity to law. Yet, both Black Lives Matter and the climate activists still appear to higher legal and the moral principles. Recovering this legal dimension and strengthen the contemporary movements, it shows the legitimacy and the effectiveness. Martin Luther King and the fidelity to law. King brilliantly fused the Thoreau's with the natural law. He showed that breaking unjust law could actually strengthen the legal order. This nuanced position continues to influence how the today's movement frame their actions as the highest expression of the justice. Both BLM and the FFF draws on this legacy when they lay their bodies before the conscience of the community. Defining Black Lives Matter, BLM emerged from the outrage over the police killing, yet quickly become a sophisticated movement confronting the systematic racism. Here, Clayton analysis that shows it updates the civil rights tradition while the preserving the Thoreau's insistence on the moral resistance. It decentralized the structure, makes civil disobedience more accessible and resilient into this digital age. After that, BLM and the civil right comparative analysis. Here, Clayton's comparison reveals the striking parallels. Both began with the shocking violence against the black bodies, and both faced media criticism for being too confrontational. Now, yet BLM's decentralized and the digital nature marks a clear evolution, while the preserving the thorough spirit of conscious resistance. The here it is shown that it shows the remarkable continuity of the tactics. Issues framing in Black Lives Matter. Affecting the framing turns personal tragedies into the systematic critique. Here Clayton shows that how BLM broadened the national conversation exactly as the Thoreau and the King did. Despite the harsher media treatment, it emerges as a force that society to confront uncomfortable truths about the ongoing racial injustice. This framing strategy keeps on Thoreau's legacy alive. The social psychology of the Black Lives Matter. Here, Leach and Allen reveals the psychology of the engine behind the BLM. Shared anger at the unfairness combined with the belief in collective powers turns personal outrage into the mass mobilization. This mechanism updates the Thoreau's call to the conscious for today's network age. Imagine future in Black Lives Matter. Here, Durham shows that how BLM activists imagine as an alternate future free from the white supremacy. Here, that tempered optimism mirrors Thoreau's realism. Moral action remains. Necessary even when the immediate success seems distant. Imaging better futures keeps the movement alive across the generation. Thoreau's legacy in Black Lives Matter. From Thoreau's jail cell to the Frisian streets, the same moral architects persist. Here, BLM adapts his method to digital networks and the intersectional framing, yet preserves the core commitment to justice, the over blind obedience. Defining Greta Thunberg's climate activism, Greta Thunberg transformed one girl's school strike into a worldwide movement. Here, Source and O'Brien show how her activism blends moral urgency with the strategic digital organizing. This modern form of civil disobedience echoes the Thoreau's while addressing the existential threat of climate change through the collective youth action. Youth Youth dissent, dutiful, disruptive, and the dangerous. Here, O'Brien typologically captures the full spectrum of the youth climate action, from dutiful awareness raising to the dangerous direct disruption. Today's young activists blend Thoreau's moral refusal with the collective power of the digital tools. Now, here the sources also show that it challenges the power structures in a ways that updates the Thoreau's principle. Network mobilization and the Greta effect. Here, Source has shown that how FFF, Fridays for Future, blends leader-centered inspiration with the grassroots networking. Activists both follow Thunberg and assess their own agencies. These hybrid models makes the Thoreau's principles more powerful and resilient into the digital age. After that, prognostic framing by Fridays for the Future protest. Here, Samson and the Wellstone largely scales the survey shows that how FFF protests demand both immediate policy action and the fundamental system change. This variety of the prognostic frames strengthen the movement's intellectual depth and the broad approval. People's action for the climate justice. Now, Trots systematically reviews and proves that climate justice activism is inherently collective and the justice oriented. It transforms Thoreau's tax resistance into the modern divestment and the direct action against the intersecting crisis. The sources here shows that people's action for climate justice updates the civil obedience. Here are my research limits and the further scope. My hypothesis is justified and it analyzed the selected text fully justified that thorough civil disobedience emerges as a lasting moral and intellectual foundation for the contemporary non-violent movements such as the Lives Matter, Fridays for the Future. Both movements reflect the continuity in the ethical reasoning, non-violent strategy and demands for the systematic change while the adapting this principle to digital, intersectional and the transitional context. Rather than diminishing over the time, civil disobedience continue to function as a powerful and a principal form of the resistance, demonstrating the enduring relevance of the Thoreau's idea in addressing the systematic injustice and the global climate crisis. These are the lessons for today, which shows the which shows the idea of how digital tools help to protest. Now, my conclusion. Civil disobedience has evolved from the Henry David Thoreau's 1849 tax refusal into the powerful global movements that continue to confront systematic racism and the climate crisis within the fidelity to his principle. Black Lives Matter and the Fridays for Future, led by the Greta Thunberg, exemplify this continuity by the demonstrating that non-violent conscious driven resistance remains a living democratic practice. These are my learning outcomes, and this is the infographic of my wall presentation. These are the references. Thank you. Now, if anyone have a question, please feel free to ask.
My question is the idea of individual conscience, as in Thoreau, still relevant in a world driven by collective identity and group politics?
If we think about in modern times, the individual consciousness is still important, just like Thoreau has described. But here in the modern world, people believe that their thoughts are not that much good, but the people who are with whom they are with are also good with their thoughts. So they believe into their thoughts, and also keep their thoughts also. So it is called a collective perspective. So the today's people act with the more as a part of groups. Now this which shows the personal belief developing through the collective experience. Now this experience turn into a perspective, and Thoreau's idea here also still exists, but within the it has a collective kind of form. Okay, that is my answer.
My question is to you that as social media and technology continue to grow, will future protests rely more on digital activism than the physical demonstration?
Yes, digital activism is what we are living with, because it will increase, because the messages we spread are too much of on the quick time of clock, and it is spreads quickly and reaches to the global audience. So it will be on onto the future protest, and it can be also defined that physical protest is also needed. Why? So the answer is, it shows the commitment, because the pressure will be real onto the leaders who are corrupting. If we are protesting against someone leader who is a corrupt, and if we do the digital activism, it will not that much be emphasized, one. But if we do the physical activism, it will be more on a pressure, like we can see in the Nepal's Gen Z protest, which can be taken as an example, which shows that future protests will likely of the digital activism, but it will be more impactful if it is a physical activism. So this is my answer. Thank you everyone for your attention.